Happy Wednesday. It is February 11, 2026. You are listening to The Deep Dive. Today we're looking at a stack of reports that, well, they really shouldn't even exist.
Yeah.
If you follow the cybersecurity beat, you probably remember May 2025. Vividly. It was a huge victory lap for the industry. Operation Endgame. Law enforcement agencies from pretty much everywhere teamed up and just dismantled the infrastructure for some of the biggest malware loaders in the world. It was supposed to be the end of the line for these guys.
It was a massive operation. We saw 2,300 domains seized, arrests were made. It was pitched as, the death blow to that whole loader ecosystem. The mood was genuinely celebratory.
And yet here we are, less than a year later. We're looking at a Bitdefender report from January that shows infection rates aren't just back to normal, they're surging. So the mission for this deep dive is to understand the resurrection. We are talking about the return of LummaStealer.
Also known as Luma C2. And honestly, resurrection is the right word. It's a zombie story, but, without the slow shambling. This comeback is fast, it's efficient, and technically it's sharper than before.
Okay, so we need to unpack three specific things today to really get this surge. First, the malware itself, what Luma is actually stealing and why it's so valuable. Second, this new delivery vehicle they've built, something called CastleLoader, which is, frankly, it's a very sophisticated piece of engineering. And third, and this is the part that actually worries me the most, a psychological trick. It's called ClickFix, and it's bypassing our technical defenses by just hacking the user directly.
Oh, that last one, ClickFix, that's a game changer. It completely shifts the battlefield. It's not about software vulnerabilities anymore. It's about human patience vulnerabilities.
Let's start with the context then, LummaStealer. For those who haven't tracked all the specific families, what kind of category are we even dealing with here?
It's an info stealer, and it's sold under the malware-as-a-service model, MAS.
Which essentially corporatizes cybercrime, right? Turns it into a subscription business.
Exactly. It just lowers the barrier to entry so much. You don't need to be a coder to use Luma. You pay a subscription, literally, a monthly fee to the developers. They give you the dashboard, the builder, all the support. You just have to distribute it.
And the developers are incentivized to keep their customers happy.
Right. So they are constantly updating the code to evade detection. And that's why it bounced back so fast after that May 2025 bust. The infrastructure was hit, sure, but the product development, it never stopped.
That explains the resilience. It's a business, and businesses pivot. So if I'm a subscriber to this service, an affiliate as they call them, what am I getting? What is Luma actually pulling off a victim's machine?
It's a vacuum for your digital identity. The standard stuff is there. Browser credentials, usernames, passwords you've saved. But the real value today, and the reason these stealers are so premium, is in the session cookies.
And we should clarify that, because cookies sounds harmless to most people. We're not talking about the accept cookies banner for tracking ads on a news site.
No, not at all. We're talking about authentication tokens. When you log into your corporate VPN or your cloud dashboard or your crypto exchange, the server gives your browser a token that says, this user is verified. If Luma steals that active session cookie, the attacker can just replay it.
So they don't even need your password.
They don't need your password. They don't need your 2FA code. To the server, they are you.
Wow, that's the critical insight right there. Session hijacking bypasses multi-factor authentication.
In many cases, yes. Unless the session is maybe bound to a specific IP address, which isn't always the case for consumer services, the attacker can just slide right in. And Luma is aggressive. It specifically targets crypto wallet extensions, MetaMask, Phantom, Binance.
Those are big ones.
All the big ones. It scans for specific file types on your desktop, like, text files labeled passwords or seed phrase. It grabs VPN configurations. It's built for immediate financial theft or deeper network intrusion.
So we have a potent payload. But a payload is useless if you can't deliver it. And traditional antivirus has gotten pretty good at spotting known malware signatures. Which brings us to the second part of our dive, the delivery truck.
Enter CastleLoader.
And this popped up around early 2025, right? Just before the big crackdown.
Correct. And it's important to distinguish the loader from the stealer. CastleLoader is the mercenary. Its only job is to get past the guards, the antivirus, the firewalls, and then open the door for the actual weapon, which is Luma or sometimes other malware like Redline or Radamanthys.
Okay, the Bitdefender analysis highlights the CastleLoader is using an in-memory execution model. Walk us through why that's so significant compared to, the old school download and run viruses.
So traditionally, malware downloads a file -not.exe to your hard drive. Your antivirus scans the hard drive constantly. It sees the new file, checks its signature against a database of known bad files, and poof, deletes it. Simple. CastleLoader is different. It's script-based, usually using tools like PowerShell or a scripting language called AutoIT.
Okay.
When it infects you, it downloads an encrypted payload and decrypts it directly into the computer's RAM, the volatile memory.
It never even touches the disk.
Ideally, no. It lives in the temporary workspace of the operating system. Because there's no physical file on the hard drive for the antivirus to scan, it's much, much harder to detect. It's a ghost. It exists only while the computer is running.
And from what I'm reading, it's a paranoid ghost. It has these environment checks. It doesn't just run blindly.
Oh yeah, this is standard for high-end malware now. Before CastleLoader fully executes, it looks around, it checks, am I on a real person's laptop or am I inside a security researcher's sandbox? Security companies use virtual machines to detonate malware safely to see what it does. CastleLoader checks for the artifacts of those virtual machines, specific drivers, screen resolutions that are too perfect, lack of mouse movement. If it smells a trap, it just terminates. Plays dead.
It's an evolutionary arms race.
Yeah.
But here's the detail in the report that I found really fascinating, almost ironic. Despite all this stealth, CastleLoader has a very specific tell, a fingerprint.
The fake DNS lookup. This is a great detail for the tech-savvy listeners.
Right. Explain that. Why would a piece of stealth malware intentionally try to connect to a website that doesn't exist?
It's a clever, if a little risky, mechanism. When CastleLoader runs, it attempts to resolve a domain name that is just gibberish, something that definitely isn't registered, like KJS, DHFKS, JDHF.com. It expects the DNS server to return an error, specifically an NX domain response.
So it wants to fail.
It treats the failure as confirmation. It acts as a kind of connectivity check. If it gets the NX domain error, it knows two things. One, it has a live internet connection. And two, it's likely not being intercepted by a sinkhole or some other type of security firewall that might be watching its traffic.
So if it gets a success message for its fake domain, it knows it's being watched.
Exactly. If the fake domain resolves, it knows it's in a trap. But because this behavior is so specific, attempt connection to gibberish, wait for error, it's become a signature. Bitdefender researchers can look at network traffic and just say, oh, that weird failed connection sequence, that's CastleLoader waking up.
Its attempt to be subtle made it loud. It's fascinating how these obfuscation techniques eventually become the very thing that identifies them.
It's the constant cat and mouse game. They build a better lockpick, we build a better log.
But even if we can spot it on the network eventually, the damage might already be done. And that brings us to how it gets on the machine in the first place. We've got the payload, Lumma, and the vehicle, CastleLoader. But the entry method, this is where the story shifts from code to psychology.
This is the ClickFix technique.
I've seen this referred to as clearfake in some other reports, but ClickFix seems to be the methodology. And this is arguably the most dangerous part of the current campaign because it targets the user's frustration.
Yes, and it relies on the fact that we have trained users to be compliant.
I want to paint the picture for you, the listener. You're not getting an email with a sketchy attachment anymore. That's 2015 stuff.
No, you're just browsing the web. Maybe you're looking for a specific software tool, a cracked version of Photoshop, maybe a video converter, or you're just streaming a movie on a gray market site. You click a link and a screen pops up. It looks like a standard verification page. Prove you are human.
Which we are all conditioned to just ignore. We click the boxes. We're trained monkeys when it comes to CAPTCHA.
Exactly. But this one doesn't work. You click the box and it says verification failed. Then it offers a solution. It says, click here to copy the verification fix and then paste it into the terminal to verify.
It gives you instructions.
Detailed, helpful instructions. It creates this sense of urgency and offers a clear path to resolution. Press the Windows key plus R-type PowerShell. Paste the code. Hit enter.
It's weaponizing tech support. It frames the infection as a troubleshooting step.
It is social engineering at its absolute finest. They call it ClickFix because they are offering a fix for a problem they just fabricated. When the user pastes that code into PowerShell and hits enter, they are the ones executing the malware.
And that's the critical distinction, isn't it? If I download a file, my browser scans it, my antivirus scans it. But if I open PowerShell, which is an administrative tool, and I paste a command, I am telling the computer, I am the admin, and I command you to run this.
Precisely. You are overriding all the security protocols. The operating system trusts the user. If the user says, go to this server, download the script, and run it, the computer obeys. It assumes you know what you're doing. This is technically known as living off the land. They aren't bringing a hacking tool with them. They are using the tools built right into Windows PowerShell, the run dialog against the user.
So CastleLoader doesn't have to break in.
Nope.
We are opening the door, disabling the alarm, and inviting it in for tea.
And once it's in, it sets up shop. This is the persistence phase. We mentioned earlier that CastleLoader runs in memory. A reboot should kill it.
Right. RAM is volatile. Turn off the power, the data vanishes. So how does it survive me turning off my laptop at night?
To survive a reboot, CastleLoader has to anchor itself to the hard drive somewhere, but it wants to remain stealthy. So it creates a hidden folder, usually deep in the user's app data directory. It copies the malicious script there, the actual instructions, but it also copies a legitimate interpreter, usually the auto-IT executable.
Wait, auto-IT is a legitimate tool.
Oh yeah, it's a legitimate scripting language used by IT admins for automation. By using the legitimate executable, they're much less likely to trigger antivirus alarms than if they use some custom-coded .exe file.
So they have the script and the tool to run it, hidden away in a folder. How do they make it run when I wake up?
They create a shortcut, specifically an internet shortcut file, a .rl file, in your Windows startup folder.
The startup folder. That's the folder Windows checks every time it boots to see what programs to launch.
Exactly. But instead of a program, it's a shortcut. When Windows loads, it sees the shortcut, follows it, triggers the legitimate auto-IT interpreter, which runs the hidden script, which re-injects Luma right back into the memory. You boot up, and within seconds, your session cookies are being siphoned off again.
It's a complete loop, from the psychological trick to the memory injection to the persistent. It's a very tightly integrated ecosystem, and it totally explains the surge in that Bitdefender data.
It does, and it shows that Operation Endgame back in May 2025. I mean, it hurt them, but it forced them to innovate. They moved away from that centralized infrastructure that could be seized and toward this decentralized user-initiated infection model, which is just much harder to police.
So, knowing all of this, knowing that the malware is fileless and the infection vector is us, how do we actually defend ourselves? Run antivirus feels like insufficient advice here, although obviously you should.
Antivirus is still the safety net. I mean, Bitdefender, who wrote this report, obviously detects this behavior. They catch the PowerShell scripts, the network calls. But just relying on software alone is risky because of that time gap between a new variant appearing and the antivirus updating. The primary defense, it has to be behavioral.
We need a new rule of thumb for the internet.
We do, and it is this. Never, under any circumstances, paste code into a terminal because a website told you to.
That needs to be the don't take candy from strangers of the 2020s.
It really, really does. There is no legitimate scenario, none where Netflix or YouTube or your bank or a CAPTCHA provider will ask you to open PowerShell. That's just not how web technology works. If you see instructions telling you to press Windows plus R, close the tab, disconnect, it is 100% an attack.
It seems so obvious when we say it here, but in the moment, when you just want to watch that video or get that file, people drop their guard.
That's what the attackers are banking on.
And what about the source of these redirects? The report mentions that a lot of this traffic is coming from malvertising.
That's the other key takeaway. These fake verification pages, they often live behind promoted search results. You search for free PDF editor, and the very type result is an ad bought by the attackers. You click it, and you're in the ClickFix funnel. Or they compromise legitimate sites and inject code that redirects you.
So, paradoxically, using an ad blocker is a security practice.
Absolutely. In 2026, an ad blocker isn't just about convenience or avoiding commercials. It's about digital hygiene. It filters out the primary vector for these redirection attacks. If you aren't seeing the malvertising, you can't click on it.
And I suppose we should touch on the obvious one, piracy. The report seemed to suggest that where sites are a massive breeding ground for this.
The eternal vector. This campaign relies so heavily on people looking for cracks and unlocked software. If you are downloading pirated software, you are self-selecting as a target. You are already looking for a way to bypass licensing. Attackers know you're willing to bypass security warnings too.
It's a harsh reality. If you go into the bad part of town, don't be surprised if you get mugged.
And don't be surprised if the mugger follows you home and lives in your startup folder, which is essentially what persistence is.
It's chilling when you put it that way. Okay, let's summarize what we've uncovered today. LummaStealer was supposed to be dead, but it's back with a vengeance in early 2026. It's using a sophisticated in-memory loader called CastleLoader to evade traditional file scanning. And it's spreading primarily by tricking users into pasting malicious code into their own terminals via this ClickFix scam.
That's the dossier. It's a triad of malware, loader, and social engineering.
It brings up a really provocative question, I think, about the future of computing. We have spent billions building firewalls, heuristic scanners, AI threat detection. But the vulnerability here wasn't a bug in Windows. It wasn't a flaw in Chrome. It was the user's willingness to follow instructions.
It's the human firewall concept completely flipped on its head. We're moving from an era of hacking the machine to hacking the human, and that poses a real design challenge for operating systems. If the user is the installer of the malware, can we afford to trust the user anymore?
That is a complicated thought. Should the computer be able to say, "No, Dave, I can't let you do that"?
We're already seeing it with lockdown mobile OS ecosystems where you can't run unauthorized code even if you want to. We might see that philosophy come to desktop computing faster than we think, specifically because of attacks like ClickFix. If users can't be trusted with PowerShell, vendors might just take PowerShell away from the average user.
Freedom versus security. The eternal debate playing out in your terminal window. We will leave it there for today. Check your sources, update your ad blockers, and for the love of everything, keep your hands off the command line unless you know exactly what you're typing.
Stay skeptical.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.